Hey guys, I am Big and Scary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay. This time it is going to be Game 6 of NoN-eSports versus Clan Sqeht. In our bottom right hand side, taking the last game featuring these two individuals is soulFLURE, Soul. He is our yellow Masters Zerg, and his opponent in the top right, who, this is a grudge match. They just played each other. And Soul took it pretty handily with a very early Baneling bust. His opponent in the top right is going to be Complain, our green Terran from Clan Sqeht. Both players are high masters. I know that Soul is very high masters, like 7 seed or something like that. And Complain has been playing like a champ every single game. Very, very cool, and I feel like both of them are very comparable skill levels, so I'm looking forward to this matchup. It's going to be fantastic. We're on Whirlwind. It looks like we have top right versus bottom right, and Soul has selected the correct pathway for his first Overlord to go. Second one's going off to the bottom left-hand side, but he's going to be able to scout that out. Now, the tricky thing here is how far in do you let your Overlord go? Do you stop it right here to see if there's just a CC being up on the low ground, or do you suicide it in and actually see what your opponent is doing? There's pros and cons to either playstyle. The most powerful pro is the fact that if Soul stops his Overlord here, he might not expose the fact that he spawned on the bottom right-hand side. If you let your Overlord get in there and get scouted by the enemies, even just an SCV, he's going to know exactly where Zerg is without actually having to look around the map. And on these 4 different spawn location style maps, that's a pretty important tool. It looks like he's going to let his Overlord get all the way in there, and he's going to be rewarded with the fact that there is a CC being constructed on the low ground. He does not micro it to the fullest of its extent, and so that Overlord is going to be exposed, so Complain knows exactly where his opponent is spawned. It doesn't look like that Overlord is reacting on the bottom left-hand side just yet. And we have a spawning pool being constructed on in the main. We've got the hatchery going up on the low ground for Soul, so he's going for a hatch first build. CC coming out from Complain before the barracks, so just given the fact that it's such a large map, just given the fact that the multiple spawn locations, you can really afford to get away with stuff like a hatch first, like a CC first. Still ballsy, still totally ballsy, considering the fact that Complain got hit with a Baneling bust, so Soul is definitely not afraid with going for that very aggressive style that could really punish a CC first. But Complain is confident. He's ready for this. He's more than ready. He's hungry. He's hungry. We got that barracks coming up. The early gas timing tells me it's probably going to be a Reaper opening for this one too. He's almost got that 50 gas right as that barracks finishes, but it starts up on a Marine instead. Wow. Too cool. Maybe he's saving up for an add-on. I'm not sure, or just a factory. Only time will tell. We have that command center finishing on the low ground. We have both queens popping out as that spawning pool is done. Still no gas, which tells me that Soul's probably going to be going for an early expansion for himself. SCV from Complain is also of a like mind, has poked down to that third just to scout out to see if exactly the drone is on its way over there. And we have a healthy plethora of drones back here, but maybe he's working on that, what's it called? Saturation. The saturation of that natural, first and foremost. And like I said, Complain knows that this is where Zerg is, so the fact that he hasn't suicided in there probably means he's suspecting some Zerglings, probably suspecting a queen that would defend that and just kill that SCV without rewarding him with any actual scout. So he has his SCV positioned right here so that he'll know exactly when that third is elected to take. Obviously, this is also a potential third, and so I suspect there might be a scan if he doesn't see anything at all in here. He's very curious about what's going on back at home. Still no gas coming out of Zerg. Oh, nope, down here the natural. Double gas at the natural. 10 more drones on the production tab, though. On the other side of things, Complain is he's working his way down his tech path. He's got that factory finishing up with a reactor right on top of it. We never saw any Reapers, so I was totally wrong about that. However, with that reactor, it's not unlikely that he'll get a handful of Hellions out there, so he can actually start to punish soulFLURE once he decides to start taking multiple bases. We have a Roach Warren coming up too, so this could be another form of all-in. Nope, no, it's definitely not going to be another all-in. That SCV throwing down the engineering bay block probably is going to survive. It looks like he's just barely going to get away, even though he only has 10 health left, so yeah, he can afford to take 1 or 2 hits, and it just totally depends on how far that drone wants to chase him. Oh, but with a frisky Zergling coming back, maybe that drone's not going to long for the world. 1 hit from the Zergling. Oh no, the Zergling's on move command right past the drone. Oh no, that SCV totally survives as the Hellions come in as a cavalry. The Valkyries arrive and save that drone. He is so incredibly thankful for those Hellions and that Zergling. That's pretty cool. Those Hellions are now out on the field, though, and we see that the third is being constructed in the top right rather than the bottom left, and that's probably just because of that engineering bay more than anything else. Those Hellions will be doing just a little bit of damage to that hatchery if they want to, but probably not enough to actually cancel it. Definitely not enough to force a cancel, as those queens are in the area. Wall-off is totally complete this time around. You'll note that that was totally absent in the last matchup. That he lost to that Baneling bus, and this is cool. This is something that those master level players can do, is just adjust your playstyle depending on the playstyle that you're seeing from your opponent. The two Hellions that were rebuffed by those queens arriving back at home. We've got some Hellbats on the field. That's going to be really powerful against any Zergling-centric force that we could see coming out of Soul. He's got another 10 drones on the way, so definitely not going to be aggressive until he's got this fully saturated. But he's got nice tech back at home. Still no lair, so he can't quite start working on those upgrades for those roaches. And he's starting on +1 melee weapons, +1/+1 really. So that's weird. I mean, he's got that Roach Warren out there, and that's probably purely for defense more than anything else. Doesn't really want to be super aggressive. He wants to keep Terran honest, make it so that they can't take a third very early. But with that +1 Terran melee, I wonder, or Zergling melee, I wonder if that means he's going to be teching very quickly towards Broodlords. He is getting the Baneling nest up, so I don't know. We'll have to pay very close attention. 4 more extractors tells me that they could see a Spire sooner or later. But still, it's many different opportunities. He's feeling out the Terran composition. Really wants to see these Hellbats more than anything else. We don't see the Infernal Pre-Igniters on the upgrades just yet, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that sooner or later once this Tech Lab is done with STEM, maybe. +1 Terran Ground also. Oh, you know what this is? This is awfully reminiscent of that Marauder and Hellbat composition. You get a buttload of Hellbats to just chew up any Zerglings, and then you get almost exclusively Marauders thereafter. And those Marauders chew up the Roaches, and it just works wonders against that very typical composition of Zerglings and Roaches and Banelings. The Roaches do great work against the marine heavy compositions, and then the Banelings take care of any of the infrastructure that Terran has back at home to help him defend. However, this composition really shreds that, and so this is actually a really cool reactionary play coming out from Complain, and this harkens back to the early games of the Heart of the Swarm. We have 2 medevacs filled with Hellbats moving out. They do not have Infernal Pre-Igniter, but there's 2 medevacs, so they will be doing comparable damage to pre-nerf. We have a lot of Banelings being morphed up on the high ground of the 3rd, and it looks like a Macro Hatch is going to be finishing at the main. We've got some Zerglings coming in, but still just massive damage being done by those Hellbats, cleaning up 4 workers killed. A nice easy pickup, considering the fact that he's probably not going to be losing any of these Hellbats with just 2 queens there. They just do so much damage. Oh, but a devastating loss of one of the medevacs getting targeted down by soulFLURE. Oh man, that was a great pickup. Not only did he take down the medevac, but he also took down all of the Hellbats that were inside that medevac. So that is a significant loss, and definitely one that equalizes all the damage done by that drop. Very cool play here. Here's that composition that I was talking about. Bunch of Marauders, bunch of Hellbats, a handful of Marines, but that's really just to take care of any Mutalisks that could be coming out. And we do have the Spire just seconds away from finishing. And that's going to be really cool, because this is definitely weak against air-based play, especially if the Banelings can get some lucky hits on all of those Marines. And we have a lot of Banelings out there. They've got centrifugal hooks, and they're deep on creep. So here comes the push, and my goodness, those Banelings make mincemeat out of all of those Marines. But plenty of Marauders and Hellbats remain. It looks like the Roaches are going to be more than enough to actually clean that up, especially with 11 more Roaches on the production tab right now. But Complain just showing you that I've got an army. I've got an army, and I'm more than willing to push out. He's got a 3rd CC that's finishing his natural. However, in a couple of seconds, he's going to have to be dealing with Mutalisks, and those Mutalisks can definitely do a lot of damage against composition that's lacking on anti-air. However, the infrastructure back at home for Complain is such that he's going to be capable of producing Marines 4 at a time, so he should have enough anti-air to actually deal with that. But those minerals for those Marines means that there's going to be less Hellbats, and we can see that reflected on the production tab. We don't see any Hellbats right now. We don't see any Hellbats at all in this composition. It's because he's having to rely on those Marines, and he's going to be thankful of that once those Mutalisks get out on the field. We don't see any Mutalisks on the production tab, but we do have 6 right now being constructed. Traditionally, Zerg will go up to about 9 so that they can one-shot those Widow Mines, but we don't see any of those out just yet. With those Hellbats, we know he's got the infrastructure for it, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a handful more being added into the mix. 4th base has been taken, has not been fully saturated just yet. Probably going to be used exclusively for gas income more than anything else. However, Soul is beginning to move out with another healthy composition of Roaches and Mutas, getting that glial reconstitution, making those Roaches just a little bit faster, as well as +2/+2 for his Zerglings. The third is being forced to be sacked, and it looks like the orbital command is going to be pushing back to the natural, but that natural is very hardy and very well defended. At the same time, there's a drop down at that fourth, but again, that fourth was not fully saturated, and it looks like the majority of those drones are going to survive. These roaches and zerglings are going to force for a pickup, but no, it looks like the plane is distracted, and he loses the vast majority of his force. He's only down to 2 Marines making their way out of that, and man, those Mutalisks are beginning to swarm in. Here we are, up to 9 Mutalisks now, just doing quite a lot of damage to those medevacs, especially considering the fact that the pre-ignital boost, the afterburner, has been discharged. Oh man, those Mutalisks being a little bit too ballsy, pushing forward. 2 of them go down to the concentrated fire of those Marines, but this small contingent from Complain is not going to be enough to hold back Soul. Soul is just pushing forward with the might of 1,000 Banelings. Look at all these Banelings. Holy crap. 2-2 is going to be finishing in a handful of seconds, so you don't really care about Mutalisks anymore. These Zerglings and Roaches are going to be more than enough, and Complain has been forced to produce more Marines than he needed to. And oh my goodness, so many Baneling hits on those Marines. The Marauders and the Hellbat numbers was stunted because of the fact that those Mutalisks got out there. Dude, this is so cool. So, okay, so Soul only made enough Mutalisks to pose a threat. Only 9 of them. That's it. You usually see the numbers just continue to climb and continually churn out those Mutalisks, but that's not what he did. The reason he did that was to force Marine production, and when those Marines came out, they did it at the direct cost of Hellbats, as well as some Marauders, I'm sure. I mean, you know, the infrastructure back at home is set up to produce Marines now rather than a bunch of Marauders. Look at all these reactors, and you only have a handful of tech labs, and one of them is on the factory. So you've got this infrastructure that's set up for a specific build style. He wanted Marines, he wanted Marauders, and he wanted Hellbats. And instead he had to focus on the Marines to make it so he had some anti-air to deal with these Mutalisks. And because of that, he didn't have the Hellbats necessary to deal with the Banelings, and the Banelings came in and just crushed his Marines anyway. And he was left with all these Roaches, and these Roaches were capable in and of themselves to crush this natural. And that is so awesome. And that's it. That's it. NoNesports takes the match 4-2. Complain taking 2 maps for himself, so hats off to him. It was great play style. I love this build from Terran. I really do. It's just Soul had his number, and I've never seen this displayed before, this Zergling playstyle, having the Mutalisks out there just to force the slight switch. This would have been devastating if there was enough time to get those Thors out, but there just wasn't, and it was because Soul was rather rambunctious. That was awesome, and you know, that's a clan battle. That's what happens when you have a clan war. Too cool. Hats off to NoNesports for taking the win over Sqeht. Sqeht, hats off to you for having some fantastic players, and hats off to you for actually watching this replay from start to finish, I suppose. If you missed any of the matches, you should go back and check them out. They were top drawer. You guys are top drawer. Thank you for watching. I am Big and Scary. I will see you guys later. Bye.